Welcome back to Seoul here in South Korea. It has been a wonderful few days for us, and unfortunately it all comes to an end because even with two more games on the docket, we know who is moving on from Seoul to Tokyo in round two in the World Baseball Classic. A good look there at Jason Marquis, who gets his second start in this WBC. Let's take a look at the starting lineup he will face, as drawn up by the Dutch skipper Hensley Meulens. Similar to what we have seen the first couple of days. Couple of changes, though, as Andrelton Simmons moves to DH. Didi Gregorius, who had a big night against Chinese Taipei with 3 doubles, including the game tire in the 8th inning. He moves to shortstop, and De Caster will play first base. So that's the Netherlands starting lineup. They will face Jason Marquis, a 38-year-old from Long Island, New York, won 124 games in his 15-year Major League career. And Joe, as we said before, he threw just 45 pitches in his first start, so he gets a couple of days rest, and he is back at it for his second start.
Well, he'd like to be a little bit sharper than he was in his first start. Was battling his location. Of course, he's always had that sneaky sinker, throws a lot of ground balls, and uses his defense. This will be a tune-up start. He will not really get himself extended with his pitch count. There'll be more pitchers throwing behind him, but he hopes to get them off to a very good start. And in his 15 Major League year career, 10 of those he was on a postseason club. So this guy knows how to win.
Knows the big game for sure, and knows to use his defense as he did in the opener against Korea. Here is a look at today's defense for Team Israel. Decker, Fuld, and Borenstein left to right on the outfield. Around the horn on the infield, Kelly, Bertram, Krieger, and Fryman, with Ryan Lavarnway behind home plate.
You know, something that they've done a very good job of, Paul, is catch the ball. And speaking of catching the ball,
yes.
What ball cannot Sam Fuld catch?
He has been terrific. Again, the scouting report says terrific defender, and it didn't take him long in the first game to figure out that, yep, his defense certainly will travel. Another guy who's got some pretty good defense on his scouting report is Andrelton Simmons, but we won't see any of that today as he's the designated hitter. But he leads off for us here in Seoul. Game one of our final day doubleheader. And we are underway. First pitch in there for a called strike to Andrelton Simmons, who is 3 for 9 with a double and an RBI here in Seoul. Of course, the shortstop of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, looking to get things started here for the Kingdom of the Netherlands in the first. This one is popped up, foul ground, Fryman underneath it. One away.
Yeah, Paul, if you had designs on playing shortstop for Kingdom of the Netherlands, you could just pick another position. Because even when Simmons is into the DH spot, you got Xander Bogaerts, Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Schoop, even Jurickson Profar.
And here is Jurickson Profar, 3 for 8 with a loud home run in the opener and 3 RBIs to go along with it. A breaking ball from Jason Marquis in there for a called strike. Profar has played in center field in each of the 3 games for the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Of course, is a utility man with the Texas Rangers back in Major League Baseball. Hasn't seen any center field, so perhaps adding another position to that resume.
And it's been really a fun thing to watch, the development and how fast the development that King Netherlands has been able to do. They were really known as a team in past WBCs as, you know, kind of the upset team. And now it's a team that's loaded with not only major leaguers, but high-end major leaguers. Profar's had shoulder surgeries that have sidelined him for a couple of seasons, and the Rangers couldn't be more delighted to get his bat back in the lineup in Texas.
Down to the count, a ball and 2 strikes to Jason Marquis, who threw 3 innings, surrendered 2 hits, a walk and 3 strikeouts in the opener for Team Israel against Korea. And again, all the different pitch limitations and pitch restrictions when it comes to the World Baseball Classic, they change, they grow, they adjust as the tournament rolls along. But you have that 65 pitch limit in round 1. That's per game, but another key number is 50. If you throw 50 pitches, you need 4 days rest. And given that the pool play is really only 4 days to begin with, if Jason Marquis had thrown more than 50 pitches in the opener against Korea, he would not have been able to come back and throw again here. And as Joe noted before, this is a bit of a tune-up now for Tokyo. Chop to the right side, past the dive of Fryman and Krieger and into right field for a 1-out knock for Jurickson Profar, his 4th hit here in Seoul. As we get a look there at the Kingdom of the Netherlands manager, Hensley Meulens. First big league player from Curacao, managing the Dutch team for a 2nd time, was the skipper of the club back in 2013. Part of 3 World Series winning teams as a coach with the San Francisco Giants.
And in the major leagues, one of the game's great hitting coaches.
That'll bring up Xander Bogaerts, who is 2 for 8 with a triple and a run scored here in Seoul. In there for a called strike. Bogaerts 24 years old and one of Major League Baseball's rising stars. You see what he did last year with the Boston Red Sox, but 388 hits since the start of the 2015 season, tied with his teammate Mookie Betts for 2nd most in baseball, behind Astros second baseman Jose Altuve, who's suiting up for Team Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. And 0-1.
Yeah, and that's why I think he's going to be competing with Mookie Betts with the Red Sox for a batting title, multiple batting titles. You see his type of swing. It kind of has that Derek Jeter-like plane to it, where he starts from the top of the strike zone, working down in almost an inside-out way. Lots of hits to the right side of second base. He can take the ball in, the riding fastball in. They're trying to go in here and take it the other way. Much like the captain, Derek Jeter, did so many times.
See those 526 hits before turning 24. Big time names on that list, and that's why Xander Bogaerts is sure to become one of the game's all-time greats, perhaps, as he is on that trajectory, at least, with a couple of years under his big league belt.
You know, when I first saw him playing in the postseason, you know, this is really a loose bunch, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but this is a young guy with a lot of pressure playing in Boston, and he just had this look in his eye, this calmness, this sense of quiet confidence. Heck of a player.
That's pitch number 12 for Jason Marquis. Mentioned that he threw 45 pitches to get through 3 innings in the opener against Korea. This, you know, just trying to stay fresh. I saw him at breakfast this morning. I said, you throwing today? He said, yeah, I'll probably just throw an inning, stay sharp. He said, even though I took 18 months off in between throwing, I just want to stay sharp. But he was didn't have that pinpoint control that we're so used to against Korea. Runner goes. Great jump for Profar. Won't even matter because it was ball 4 to Bogaerts. But first and second with 1 away here in the first. So that's going to bring up Vladimir Balentine, a 32-year-old playing in his 2nd WBC. He's got incredible power, and he hit the ball really hard in all 4 of his at-bats last night, going 4 for 4. He is 5 for 7 with a run scored here in Seoul. He was 7 for 23 with 3 doubles and 5 RBIs in 7 games in 2013. He's got a chance to get the Dutch on the board here with 2 on and 1 out in the first.
Well, he's hitting .714 here in the pool. If you like numerology, he has a Ruthian swing too. Light tower power. Or I should say scoreboard power.
Scoreboard power, exactly.
Scoreboard in deep left field. It's just bouncing ball after ball and batting practice off of it.
Did he go? He did. And the count now 0-2. And we've watched them take batting practice over the last few days, and that's above left field. That's beyond the left field wall. Right about where Jason Marquis' chin is where Balentine hit not one, but maybe about 5 baseballs in that general vicinity.
Yeah, you've got the fence, and then that scoreboard is recessed. It is way back there and obviously way up there.
Hit high and deep towards center field, sends Fuld back to the wall, and he makes the catch. But tagging and going to third is Profar, taking a big turn around third, and now he's caught in no man's land. Fryman chases him down and tags him out for out number 3. Profar getting a bit aggressive with a big turnaround third. Heads up defense by Israel to get them out of any damage here in the first. Fuld, just enough real estate. And then Profar tagged out to end it. We're back to Sol in a moment.
Jurickson Profar being over aggressive in the top of the inning. You may be wondering why he was trying to tag and score. Scouting reports know that Sam Fuld has difficulty throwing. He had shoulder surgery, missed all of last season, and the shoulder is still not right. So you look at him catch the ball right up against the wall, and watch this. It's like launching a grenade. The ball bounces, and it's only throwing it about 60 feet from there. And that really is what created the confusion and the third out.
Fuld will lead things off against Robbie Quartermans. Sam Fuld 3 for 12 with a run scored and a couple of strikeouts here in Sol. But he has certainly played some pretty good defense as well, as you'd expect. Fuld is a 35-year-old from New Hampshire, and as Joe mentioned, missed all of last season after a shoulder injury. So using the WBC, as many players are in all the different pools, perhaps as something of an audition for a big league job in 2017. And that's Robbie Quartermans, a 42-year-old who's appearing in his 4th World Baseball Classic, 15 2/3 innings as a starter and reliever since the 2006 WBC.
He's the wily veteran on the Netherlands staff. And as we take a look at the scouting report, as you mentioned, Paul, 42 years young. He'll throw everything up there but the kitchen sink. And with that experience, his 4th WBC. Bert Blyleven says he kind of reminds him of the former twin, Brad Radke. Just kind of pinpoint control. Good changeup. Likes to move the ball around in the strike zone and absolutely has to.
To short. It stays down for Didi. 1 away. Here's the rest of the Team Israel batting order behind Sam Fuld. Ty Kelly will be next, and then Ike Davis, who has certainly brought the bat with him to Sol. 4 for 6 with a double, a triple, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, off the bench in 1 game, and got the start in game 2. But this team on the whole coming into this ball game, a .337 average and a .429 team on base percentage. They have gotten some hits, and they have drawn a lot of walks. They had a lot of chances in that first game as well, as Ty Kelly takes a called strike. Overall, they're 10 for 27 with runners in scoring position and 22 men left on base. But in that game against Korea, 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position and 8 men left on base. And in a short format like this, wins are wins. You collect as many as you can. But I guess if you really want to nitpick a little bit, they were maybe lucky to get through that game against Korea, in which they won 2-1 in extra innings. A lot of missed opportunities before the bats came to life in game 2. The 1-1 to Kelly is fouled away.
You know, Paul, Ty Kelly is a screenwriter in his spare time, and I wonder if he has designs on writing a screenplay about the trajectory of Team Israel, because it has been something out of a movie.
It certainly has been. There's actually a crew following them, putting together a documentary following their whole path. I'm not sure if it started with their qualifier in Brooklyn or not, but there was definitely the crew with them when a bunch of players went to Israel a couple of months ago, and they are here as well, and we'll follow them along to Tokyo in round 2. 1-2 to Kelly. He spoils another one.
You know, that's been the cool thing about being over here and staying at the same hotel with the teams, running into the players from various teams. Of course, Jerry Weinstein, and talking with him, and that kind of access, and they're just having an absolute blast. And you know, back in the States, it's been kind of a Hoosiers kind of big time upset situation, and a lot of the Team Israel players aren't really buying into that. They really believe in themselves. They think they're a good team, and coming out of the qualifier in Brooklyn, undefeated, currently undefeated now, and I mean, that's really not the type of thing that upset teams do. They've been boat racing their way through this to this point on their way to Tokyo for the next round.
1-2 to Kelly. Checks his swing. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And that's the thing, when you look at the rankings of the 4 teams that are here in Seoul, there's obviously a bit of a discrepancy from top to bottom. And that obviously is where it all kind of stems from. You see that Korea is at number 3 and Israel at number 41 in the WBSC rankings. But, you know, again, that takes into account a lot of different things that a little too convoluted to get into here. But the bottom line is the team that's here is not necessarily probably the 41st ranked team in the world. So just something to keep in mind. Obviously a great story, no doubt about it. I'm not taking anything away from what they've done. It is their first WBC. They've shown the poise to get through an extra inning game against the host country in front of a wild crowd the other night. They picked up a win against Chinese Taipei, and now they've got a runner on and 1 out here in the bottom of the first against the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Let's take a look at the defense behind Robbie Koordemans. Going left to right in the outfield, Audubert, Profar, and Ballantine. Third to first, Bogarts, Gregorius, Scope, and DeCaster, with Dashenko Ricardo catching the veteran Koordemans. There's Xander Bogarts. The plan was for him to stick at third for all 3 games. A little closer to shortstop right now because they impart the shift on Ike Davis, who is DHing this afternoon. But there had been a plan to kind of move around the infield a little bit. As I mentioned before, Didi DH'd the first 2 games with Andrelton Simmons as short. Now those 2 guys flip-flop.
He's really had his pull swing going here in this pool, yanking a couple doubles down into the right field corner. The right fielder more so hugging the line.
And now maybe a broken bat, lofted and falling into left center field. So another hit for Ike Davis. His 5th in 7 at-bats here in Seoul, and Israel's got something cooking.
Ball kind of got into his kitchen a little bit, but Ike is so strong, has that power that he's fighting it off, a little bit off the trademark, and you know, kind of hits it counterintuitive to the shift. You see the outfielder has moved all the way over to the right, expecting Ike to pull, and he fought that off to left.
So Ike Davis on at first and Ty Kelly on at second for the first baseman Nate Fryman, who's 3 for 10, had a loud home run the other day against Chinese Taipei.
And the other thing underrated, they have real good right-handed power led by Nate Fryman.
4 ribbies, 4 runs scored for Fryman, a 30-year-old from Washington, D.C., taken in the 8th round of the 2009 draft by the Padres out of Duke.
He gets a pitch low middle where those long arms can get outstretched. He can hit a screaming Mimi to left. You have to crowd him. You have to get ahead in the count and crowd him. Koordeman's known for his control, and he has to be pinpoint on the inside part of the plate. But if he misses out over the middle, he'll be rubbing up a new one.
2 on, 1 out, bottom of the first inning. Scoreless game here in Seoul. The 1-1. Ripped to left field, and it is down for a base hit. In to score is Ty Kelly. Over to third is Ike Davis, and into second is Nate Fryman. It's 1-0 Israel.
Well, that was one of those pitches that was low middle where he can go down and get it. Watch the extension of his arms, hitting a rocket into left. And you see the breaking ball where he can just follow it right down and into left field with something on it. And Israel's on the board.
Ike Davis on at third, and Nate Fryman at second. Quarterman's in a little bit of trouble here with a run already home, and Zach Borenstein stepping to the plate. Borenstein 3 for 9 with 3 doubles and 3 strikeouts. The 26-year-old from Illinois, third-round pick of the Angels in 2011. Interesting backstory on Quarterman's as well. He's been around, obviously, as a 42-year-old veteran, but he began his career as an 18-year-old pitcher for the Netherlands in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona and pitched for the national team in 4 straight Olympics. On the right side, Schoop thought about it. Will take the out at first. Davis scores to make it 2-0.
Situational hitting. Productive out. And you like left-handed hitters in this situation because it moves base runners, not only scoring the run, but moving Nate Fryman over to third base. Yeah, I was going to say Quarterman's pitching in his 4th WBC, 4 Olympics already. Quite the resume.
Fryman at third for Ryan Lavarnway. 3 for 6 with a home run in pool play as he takes upstairs. Lavarnway, a 29-year-old from California, 6th round pick by the Red Sox out of Yale in 2008. Set an Ivy League record with 33 home runs in 3 years there. The power's been on display for Team Israel both here in Seoul and in the qualifier in September as well. He homered to help his club punch their ticket here.
Oh.
And now this one is hit in the air toward left, and it will fall in front of Audebert. That one had a funky little spin on it. Little top spin to get down and bring home Fryman. And now it's 3-0 Israel here in the first.
You have those off-speed pitches and you've got the big power hitters. He just tries to kind of turn over a changeup, maybe a BP fastball, but no stride. Hands stay back. Lavarnway serving it with authority into left field. 3-run inning so far for Israel.
And now the number 7 hitter and left fielder Cody Decker will dig in against Quarterman's. Breaking ball misses.
Borenstein, the left-handed hitter, splits up the righties. You've got Fryman, Lavarnway, and Decker. 3 guys with great right-handed power.
I think that was actually called a strike on the swing. So it's 0-1 to Decker. 30-year-old out of California, looking to keep this inning going for Team Israel. 22nd round pick of the Padres in 2009 after he led the Pac-10 in home runs at UCLA. He's bounced around the minor leagues a little bit, trying new positions to keep the baseball career going, and finds a hole on the left side. And the hits just keep on coming here for Team Israel. It's their 4th of the inning. 3 runs in, still 2 runners aboard.
You know, if you're pitching, obviously you want to be upsetting the timing. If you've got good gas, you're above hitting speed. And you're flipping it up there, being below hitting speed can be very effective as well. But when you're at hitting speed where Quarterman's is here in the first inning, this is what can happen, because every one of the Israel hitters have been right on whatever pitch he's throwing.
Lavarnway at second, Decker at first, and you see the extra base hits and runs for these teams. And Joe, I think again we may be a little bit biased because we doing our research and talking to different people, knowing that the people that are closest to Seoul and closest to these teams knew that Team Israel maybe a bit stronger than, we just showed the ranking 41st in the world, a bit stronger than that. Now, this team is now looking like a bit of an offensive powerhouse to be out here with a .360 team batting average after the 4-hit first inning.
Well, they came out of Brooklyn as a team that was kind of a slow plodding right-handed power hitting type team. They've added a little bit more athleticism, more balance. Krieger, Ty Kelly not only has straightened out their defense, but it's given them a little bit more athleticism.
Today's starting pitcher, Jason Marquis, said about Tyler Krieger that he's really impressed by this kid. Looks like he could be a big leaguer down the road. And I know that from what you've seen, Joe, you certainly agree. I know you.
Yeah, switch hitter, you look at the mannerisms, you kind of just see how his hands, his stance, and just kind of how his body works and his readiness. You see a lot of a young Carlos Beltran. I know, kind of a big shoes to fill, but scouts will always talk about players and who do they remind you of, and this guy reminds me of Carlos Beltran. See that smooth Beltran type swing? Young, fresh-faced 22-year-old swinging it from both sides of the plate.
Drafted by the Indians in the 4th round of the 2015 draft out of Clemson. Baseball America ranks him as the number 18 prospect in that system entering this season.
Well, that's a great finishing school, Clemson. That is an outstanding baseball program, well-versed in fundamentals, how to play the game on many different levels.
And now the walk to load the bases here in the first inning. 33 pitches so far for Quartermans. And that will bring up the number 9 hitter, Scott Burcham, who, if you go back to the first night here in Seoul, he was something of a hero for Team Israel, both at the plate and with the glove. And he bats with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the first. Infield single to bring home a run. Got the team going. Not enough time to show all the defensive glove work that he had as well, but he can pick it over there at short. Ahead in the count, 1-0.
Well, he's done a beautiful job at shortstop. He's been, pretty rangy. When you look at that last point about playing above his tools.
Down the right field line, falling foul.
He has great awareness in the field, positions himself well. From a scouting standpoint, they'd say he doesn't have particularly good range, but there have been a lot of guys who have that baseball IQ that, watch what the signs the catcher puts down, knowing the hitter, recognizing swings, and always seeming to be running into the ball and be properly positioned. And I mean, that's what really adds to the range, just the intelligence of where you put yourself on the field.
It'll be a 1-1 to the 25th round pick of the Rockies in 2015. Swing and a miss, 1-2. He's 3 for 10 with a couple of RBIs. And we showed you the infield single that gave Israel a 2-1 lead and eventually a 2-1 win. But he also has 5 strikeouts here in Seoul, trying to avoid his 6th with the bases loaded and 2 outs. You know, it's great to move on. We talk about the immediacy of this tournament, but there's also a lot of games in a short amount of time. These teams are playing. Listen, big league season, 3 games in 4 days is certainly not a big deal. But then you have all the lead up to it, all the workouts. And now this game obviously is just for seeding. Both teams going to Tokyo. And then they won't play again until Sunday in Tokyo. So just about the rhythm, that baseball rhythm, that everyday rhythm may take a little bit of a hit. Who knows?
That's some days off, different country, getting acclimated to a different dome, the Tokyo Dome.
This will be the 39th pitch of the first inning for Robbie Quartermans. 3-0 Israel and 3 more runners aboard for Scott Burcham. Swing and a miss, strike 3. A lot of movement on that strikeout to end things here in the first. But Davis and Fryman, Borenstein and Lavarnway give Israel a 3-0 lead. Welcome back to Seoul. Paul Severino and Joe McGrain with you. A good look inside Go-Chuck Skydome. Trust us, the place will be rocking tonight as the host country Korea will be playing Chinese Taipei. Place opened up in 2015. It's a beautiful venue for sure. They have done a wonderful job hosting pool play for the first time in the 4 WBCs here in Korea. As we go to the top of the second inning, 5, 6, and 7 due up for the Kingdom of the Netherlands as Jonathan Scope rips one foul. So Jason Marquis' day is done. Kind of figured that would be the case. Just trying to stay sharp, little tune-up. So he gives way to Jake Kalish, a 25-year-old from New Jersey, the younger brother of Ryan, who won a World Series with the Cubs last season.
And the way that manager Jerry Weinstein is going to use his pitching staff is going to get everybody acclimated and ready for the next pool. They have some off days. Check swing called. 3rd strike. And Jonathan Scope not thinking he went around, but pretty clear that he did. See the cup of the bat almost ends up facing the pitcher. One of those ones that a hitter doesn't feel like he went around, but just couldn't hold off the barrel. But Weinstein has really done a great job of much in the same way like the qualifier. They were undefeated, and I thought his biggest strength was how he managed his pitching staff. He knows that the format is not going to allow you to just get through these pools with, one ace pitcher. He has that in Jason Marquis, but he's limited with pitches, and his big thing is using everyone and creating different looks for the hitters. It's one thing for a hitter to try to get comfortable the second or the third at bat.
Another hard hit ball for Didi Gregorius. Man, oh man. Now 5 for 9. He had 3 doubles yesterday, including the double that tied it in the 8th inning, but his swing has certainly traveled to Seoul.
Yeah, we look at his at-bats as a collective. When he was facing a left-hander last night, he had a double right down the left field line. This time, yanks it into right field, just doing a beautiful job of using the whole field. A guy who really got his attention from Major League scouts as a good glove guy, no hit, and now that hitting has really caught up. So not only have the Yankees scouts done a great job in projecting, because that bat has really come along to go with outstanding defensive play. And sometimes guys can make a jump in their development a little bit later, kind of a little late to the party, a late bloomer from an offensive standpoint, but there's really a lot to like about it now.
Urandel DeCaster with a high fly ball on the infield. Burcham underneath it. We'll have to see it through this weird roof. I say weird, but it's funky. It's got a little bit of a Metrodome feel to it, especially during the day, because it's got that sort of translucent type look. And it has this ballpark, Go-Chuck Skydome, has a little bit of the Trop to it down in St. Petersburg with the Tampa Bay Rays. Has a little bit of the old Metrodome to it.
Yeah, it's like the Metrodome in Tropicana Field had a kid.
one way to describe it.
I like it. It's a lot of domes look, like multi-purpose facilities, and this is just built for baseball. It's an intimate setting, 18,000 capacity. Gets very loud in here, as most dome stadiums do.
Ricardo with a big swing down the left field line, but foul. A loud strike.
I don't know if it was looking up into the roof and trying to track that, or maybe it was just for decoration, but Cody Decker ran all the way over to the foul line for a ball that was 30 rows foul. Save your energy, big fella.
Cody Decker patrolling left this afternoon. Another check on Didi. This is the first domed baseball stadium in Korea, and they did a wonderful job with it.
First one in Korea. They are in the process of finishing a dome stadium in Taiwan. And of course, these two teams will be advancing to the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo.
Didi is stranded. Good work by Kalish in the second. 3-0. Welcome back to Seoul. Little tour of Bucheon Village here in Seoul. Beautiful city. Great chance to check out a whole other part of the world for the first time in my lifetime. So big thanks to the World Baseball Classic for that. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain here with you. And Joe, we had a chance to check out the city. I know it's your first time out here as well. Wonderful to just check out something I didn't think I ever would.
Yeah, just very neat to explore the different villages and just the quaint parts of that, the markets, the cuisine, the culture. People have just been outstanding. When we haven't been doing baseball, it felt like Anthony Bourdain wandering around Seoul. It's been awesome.
It's very true. Not surprised to see you wandering around. Sam Fuld leads things off.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. 1, 2, and 3 due up for Team Israel with a 3-0 lead against the new pitcher, J.C. Sulbaran. Sam Fuld grounded out in the first inning. That 3-run frame to get things going for Team Israel.
Sulbaran looking for a little bit more work, trying to impress Bam Bam Mullins. Curveball is his best pitch. Pitched in the Cardinals organization last year.
.27 years old, his second WBC, also pitched in the 2009 tournament. And issues the free pass to Sam Fuld. Just to get you a little bit more familiar with the WBC. Things to keep in mind. Action winding down here in Seoul. It's picking up in Tokyo, about to begin in Miami and Jalisco. And something else to keep in mind with the pitchers now as opposed to the second and championship round. We keep talking about that 65 pitch limit per game and how Jerry Weinstein has used his pitching staff. He'll be able to stretch guys out a little bit more in the second round as it jumps up another 15, up to 80 pitches. So we'll see if just how they're used. The schedule's a little bit different there too. It was, for us here in Seoul, it was single game, doubleheader, single game, doubleheader. Schedule slightly different in Seoul as Ty Kelly squares, pulls back, but takes strike one. He walked in the first and came around to score.
Yeah, we have spent some time socializing with Jerry Weinstein and his coaching staff, and they have this way of kind of making it look easy and very casual about it, but we found out that they haven't been getting a lot of sleep and just staying up, figuring out different combinations, different lineups, and how they're using their pitching. Once the game starts, they are definitely prepared and have done a beautiful job of laying things out, especially the pitching with the regulations. And again, coming into this final game of the pool where he is in an outstanding situation.
And that's the delicate balance of this tournament, of the pool play format, is keeping an eye on the here and now and the today and making sure that you win your game and just collect as many wins as you can. It doesn't matter if you win 15-7 like they did in their second game, or capitalize in the 10th inning and win a game 2-1 like they did in their opener. You just have to get wins. But they have done a great job, again, focusing on the here and now and the today, but also the big picture of the round itself.
Yeah, being in the present and also looking out over the horizon. And obviously it's been an outstanding story and the growing of baseball in Israel. And it would really be a feather in their cap to go to Tokyo undefeated.
A called strike 3 to Ty Kelly. So that will bring up Ike Davis, a major league veteran who has certainly looked the part here in Seoul.
Yeah, he's had that pull swing going and a couple of doubles into the corner. Just been kind of spraying the ball all over the ballpark. Already has a single to left field in this game.
Davis with a single and a run scored earlier as they get a check on Fold over at first.
You know, he was saying in Brooklyn that they weren't going to use him that much, and they have used him a lot, and he's looked really good. A Met fan favorite, his perseverance. He had a lot of highs and a lot of low lows with that complicated swing. The fan base behind him hoping that he could, you know, finally figure it out and march toward that success of being a 30 home run guy. Never a dispute about the power. The son of Ron Davis, longtime Minnesota Twin and New York Yankee. Pretty much the first setup man in baseball, setting up for Goose Gossage with the New York Yankees.
Off the end of the bat, foul. Yeah, he was the 2009 Mets Organizational Player of the Year. He got a big league promotion the following season. And it was in that year he hit 19 homers, 71 RBIs, 7th in the NL Rookie of the Year vote in 2010. As you mentioned, Joe, a guy who's been around the game, been around big league clubhouses.
Very popular with his teammates and how he has handled the adversity and handled the struggles. The perseverance has garnered a lot of respect of the guys he plays with.
And it is that balance on this team. And I know I keep going back to the rankings and how they're 41st in the world, but it's the experience, whether it's the big league experience of Ike Davis and Sam Fold, or minor league experience, affiliated ball. These guys have played kind of a quote American style game as well. And by that I mean there's a lot of power in this lineup. But the hope is, for as good as this team has been, as good as this story has been for Team Israel, the hope, as Ike Davis goes down looking, back-to-back strikeouts for Sulbaron. The hope is that by the next WBC, that there are fewer Americans on the team. For as great as this has been for Team Israel, they have more players from Israel itself as opposed to, you know, of Israeli or Jewish descent. Then that's really where this team will win. If they can grow the game back home, that's the ultimate goal going forward. This is Nate Fryman, his RBI double in the first, part of a 3-run frame. A high drive, deep right field. It sends Ballantine back toward the track. Inning over. We are through 2 here in Seoul. 3-0 Israel. Welcome back to Seoul. Paul Severino and Joe McGrain with you. One of the many beautiful palaces around Seoul.
I almost wore that today.
It's too bad you didn't. Maybe you'll wear it on the plane heading back home. Anywho, a lot of terrific architecture around here. Beautiful, breathtaking architecture here in Seoul. It's been a pleasure. One more day for us here, and then these two teams head to Tokyo. New pitcher for Team Israel is Joey Wagman, a 25-year-old from California, part of Israel's designated pitchers pool, but clearly active for round one. 17th round pick of the White Sox in 2013. Breaking ball misses to Randolph Odubert. 9-1-2 due up for the Dutch. Andrelton Simmons, Jurickson Profar behind him. Odubert homered the other night, 2 for 5 so far in Seoul with a couple RBIs and 2 runs scored.
Let's take a look at Andrew Lorraine, the pitching coach of Team Israel. We've talked about Jerry Weinstein and how he's laid out the pitching with the coordination of Andrew Lorraine, former big leaguer with the California Angels. I had the pleasure of being a teammate of Andrew's back in '93 and '94 out of Stanford University. Bright guy in professional baseball, scouting now. Been very helpful and forthcoming about what their plans have been throughout this tournament. Joey Wegman, the new pitcher on the hill, at 6'4", 220. His strength is his command. The fastball's in the low 90s. 12-6 curveball, slider, changeup.
And again, part of that designated pitchers pool. So things certainly can change. There's no guarantee that it will, but they can change as teams advance as this tournament goes on over the course of 3 weeks. Wagman's 2-2 is in the dirt, and the count runs full to Odubert. So this is the third pitcher in as many innings for Team Israel, as a chance to get everybody in the ball game, work off a little bit of rust perhaps for some of these guys who haven't seen game action. We hadn't seen Kalish, we haven't seen Wagman. Jerry Weinstein and Andrew Lorraine will be working through their pitching staff. Same thing on the other side, I'm sure, for the Kingdom of the Netherlands with Hensley Meulens and Bert Blyleven. As Odubert draws the walk to lead things off here in the third inning.
Yeah, I think as you look at Andrew Lorraine, the strength of Israel, their experience and their pitching and how their pitching is used. And you look at the Kingdom of the Netherlands, you think of all the major league high-end talent, the athleticism, defensively, offensively. They have average to maybe a little below average pitching. And so they try to get the most out of that with a Hall of Fame pitching coach, or Hall of Fame pitcher who's a pitching coach, and Bert Blyleven, the guy who had the curveball by which all others are judged.
And 0-1 to Andrelton Simmons. He takes low. There is Bert Blyleven.
I remember the first time I saw him as a kid growing up in Minnesota at old Metropolitan Stadium, where the pitchers used to warm up right in front of the dugout, and you could get 5 to 6 feet from them. And Bert was throwing his curveball. You could just hear the seams just whistling all the way to the plate. And I said, as a young, precocious kid, "Hey, Bert, throw a curveball." And he goes, "Hey, kid, get lost." And the next time I saw him, had the pleasure of meeting him in the 1987 World Series, Cardinals and Twins, where the Twins won in 7 games.
Off the end of the bat, floated toward right center. Borenstein tracks it down for out number 1. And when he came up to you and said, "Hey, Joe, love watching you pitch," you told him, "Hey, dude, get lost."
Yeah, a little turnabout's fair play.
Talking about that designated pitchers pool, and whether it's for Team Israel or the Dutch or any of the 16 teams in the World Baseball Classic, it's an interesting question to ask. There are certainly varying degrees of arms that can be added. Just for example, the Dutch team has Kenley Jansen, widely regarded as one of the best closers on planet Earth, on their designated pitchers pool. Whether or not he joins the club in Tokyo still remains to be seen. Is it more likely that he joins the club should they get to Los Angeles? Perhaps. Jurickson Profar takes a look at strike one. The question is, how do you handle that, the dynamic of your staff as it's currently built, because this is the group that has advanced from one round to another?
Yeah, you know, that's really the story that I was going to bring up with regard to Israel. I mean, why would Bird and Hensley not want to add one of the best closers in the game in Hensley Mullins, or excuse me, Kenley Jansen, fellow countryman. And, you know, these guys, both of these teams, as we've gotten to know them, are very, very tight, very, very unified. They go everywhere together. They forged, you know, tremendous team unity and friendships. And I was speaking about Andrew Lorraine last night. You know, he likes the idea of sticking with the guys that they have, not having to displace someone by adding someone else.
Just a look here at some of the rules and regulations with the designated pitchers pool. Now, Brad Goldberg is a guy who's on the DPP for Team Israel, and he's apparently already tweeting out that he's going to be joining Team Israel in Tokyo. So that's the question. And in talking with Andrew Lorraine, these are the guys that wanted to get to round two, that wanted to get the ball rolling to make a run in the WBC. And now someone or two or three pitchers may have to come off, and it's just difficult because, you know, these teams, Israel specifically too, has certainly developed a bit of camaraderie.
Yeah, they've bonded together. And I was also hearing the story about, you know, Jock Peterson was, you know, within an eyelash of joining the team. And
runner goes. Profar drills it to right. Back is Bornstein looking up. It gets caught up in the wall, but it stays in the yard. Profar to second base with a one-out double.
Boy, he has such a quick bat. He just lets the ball travel, get deep, and just has incredibly quick hands. Once he fires those hands to flash speed of that swing, it just gets through the zone with lightning quick reactions, and looking for just a little bit more elevation as it hits the top of that pad of the wall there. It's like, where is it? What? Oh, I have to go back. Should I stay? Should I go? Touches second, turns left, and goes like mad into third.
Better to make that mistake on that side of the bag, though.
That's right.
Just ask Ruben Rivera. So now Profar is 5 for 10 in this WBC. Second and third for Xander Bogaerts. Bogaerts singled in the first inning. Well, we talked about this being a quick strike offense for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and that was the case last night. There were a couple of times in last night's ball game when they trailed, they got back in it, they took the lead, then they trailed again, and then they managed to put something together in the bottom of the eighth to tie it, and ultimately won on a walk-off walk in the bottom of the ninth inning. But now they are set up to perhaps tie this game with one swing of the bat. Bogaerts at the plate, and the big power of Vladimir Ballantine on deck. In on the hands to the left side. And that's Kelly across for out number 2. But a run comes in to score on the RBI ground out. And it's now 3-1.
You know, the Dutch have had that propensity for making the smooth, the slick, the outstanding plays defensively. And Israel, we talked right off the top about how well they've played fundamentally. Fundamentally, they've made all of the routine plays, have not given, save for one occasion, the team's extra outs.
Vladimir Ballantine couldn't check his swing. 0-1. He flew out to the wall in center field in the first inning. Sam Fuld tracked it down, threw it in. Ball got cut off. Jurickson Profar a little aggressive, tagging from second to third, and actually got caught in between third and home and was tagged out for the third out of that first inning. As Tyler Herron begins to loosen up for Team Israel. These teams are going to work out here tomorrow before they take off for Tokyo. And then they will gear up for second round play. High bounding ball to third, but Kelly makes easy work of Ballentine, and the inning is over. But the Dutch score a run, get it back to a 2-run deficit. On the Kingdom of the Netherlands, both of these teams have punched their tickets to Tokyo, where Pool B is currently going on right now. The host country, Japan, out to a 2-0 record. But round 2 will stay in Tokyo, and Israel and the Dutch will join whichever 2 teams advance from Pool B. So we'll keep an eye on those standings as Pools C and D in Mexico and Jalisco, Mexico, and Miami, that is, get going very, very soon. Bottom 3, 5, 6, and 7 due up for Israel as Zach Borenstein leads off. Ryan Lavarnway and Cody Decker to follow. Borenstein's RBI ground out back in the first, part of a 3-run inning. Borenstein, a 26-year-old from Illinois, a 23rd round pick of the Angels in 2011. Named the California League MVP in 2013. That's Class A ball. He's really had a tough time kind of getting back to that level, although he finds a hole on the left side here and is aboard to kick things off in the third.
Well, the approach looks really simple today for Israel. Everyone just seems to be very balanced at the plate, not getting too jumpy. See Borenstein, just a nice controlled swing. He has a very quick bat, and when he hits it into the pull field, he's got a chance to really drive the ball. Good pop.
This guy's got some of that pop too. Ryan Lavarnway, 4 for 7 so far here in Seoul with an RBI single in the first inning. 29-year-old from California, who takes low for ball 1. Homered twice in his first big league start at catcher, but has bounced around from Boston to Atlanta to Baltimore since. He'll try to win a job with Oakland after having signed a minor league deal with the A's earlier this offseason. And so far, so good for him. Borenstein off first.
And Paul, you had mentioned Pool B in Tokyo with these 2 teams advancing, and they've been rocking and rolling in the Tokyo Dome. The Japan-Cuba game drew 44,000.
Well, the atmosphere has been great. I mean, keep in mind, listen, we know it's a little quiet here right now, but keep in mind it's also 1:17 in the afternoon right now as this game's being played in Seoul. So as much as they love their baseball, people still have jobs, but the place will be going nuts tonight for sure, as a bit of a local rivalry between Korea and Chinese Taipei. Both of those teams trying to, even though they won't be advancing, trying to get out of pool play with at least a victory. And if you go winless, the likelihood of having to qualify for the next WBC certainly rises. So there's also that on the line when Korea and Chinese Taipei get going at 6:30 p.m. local time here in Seoul. Upstairs in a 4-pitch walk to Lavarnway. 2 runners aboard. Well, they have not had any trouble getting runners on base, as Bert Blyleven says, let's pitch to contact, boys. And that's the 4th walk issued by Dutch pitching, and we're only in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, that's the big thing that he has stretched. First pitch strikes and throwing the ball down and away. and for all the great athletic ability and hitting ability that the Netherlands has, the pitching is not quite up to that same caliber.
9 of the first 15 batters have reached for Team Israel. They have 2 runners aboard with nobody out for their number 7 hitter and left fielder Cody Decker, who singled and takes outside. Now they have their 2 wins. They scored a lot of runs the other day in their 2nd victory. Oh, there he is. Hoken is there. It is. There's the Mensch on the bench, the unofficial mascot of Team Israel. Cody Decker behind that. You know, we were with them with the qualifier in September in Brooklyn, and they had the a much smaller kids toy, but that's a life-size mascot right there. And he'll be booking a flight to Tokyo shortly after this ball game. Decker straight up. And it's Ricardo having to navigate that route for the first out.
Yeah, the Mensch on the bench has grown in size along with the interest and the good feelings of Team Israel. Of course, the real Mensch on the bench is the manager, Jerry Weinstein. But that's kind of like in lieu of the mascot. That's their go-to guy, Jerry, and of course the other Mensch, which will also be making its way to Tokyo. No doubt through a very spacious overhead cabin.
I wonder if it'll get bigger in Tokyo, and should they advance to LA, if that thing is going to be massive by the time they get there, if they get there. But they know that Tokyo is next as Tyler Krieger takes a look at a called strike 1. A shoulder injury at college for Krieger forced him from shortstop to second base, where Krieger has been playing for Team Israel. And this one on the ground to second base. Scope, Didi, not in time at first. First and third, 2 out here in the bottom of the third. Good time to take a look at the history of baseball in Israel. Their first baseball field was built in 1979, and you fast forward to 2016, Dean Kramer became the first Israeli citizen drafted and signed by a major league team. This, again, their first World Baseball Classic. They were so close in 2012 when they won the first 2 games of the qualifier, but the qualifiers are a modified double elimination format. So even though they went into the final as the undefeated team in the bracket, that's still a winner-go-home game. So they lost that game to Spain and missed out on an opportunity on the 2013 WBC. But they were able to win this qualifier, advance to Seoul, and off to Tokyo they go as Scott Burcham flies to right center to end it. A couple of runners stranded in the third. It's 3-1. Back here in Seoul, Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. A 3-1 score as we go to the top of the 4th inning. Israel on top of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. A brief history of baseball in the Netherlands goes back to 1905, but they have certainly had their moments in the World Baseball Classic. First and only to this point no-hitter in the WBC. That was in 06. In 09, they upset the Dominican Republic. In 13, they got to the semifinals of the WBC. So they just continue to roll along and grow the game in the different areas that make up the Kingdom of the Netherlands. New pitcher for Israel is R.C. Orlin. Second time we've seen him here in Seoul. 2/3 of an inning against Chinese Taipei. Gave up 3 runs, but only 1 was earned as the 26-year-old is back out here facing 5, 6, and 7 for the Dutch. Jonathan Scope, Didi Gregorius, and Urendel de Caster.
Boy, you said it about the Kingdom of the Netherlands growing the game. They were kind of known in the way that Israel is now, kind of the upset makers, the underdogs, and And now they've got studs and athletes all over the field, high-end major league players.
On a line to fold. He's got to move back, and Schoop is retired.
Yeah, that one was absolutely scalded. And finishing that point about the Netherlands, and you saw when they started playing back in 1905, but I've seen them a lot through the Olympics and the WBCs, and this is the fastest developing nation as far as baseball goes that I think I've seen. You just look at the major leaguers from Curacao that are littered up and down this lineup.
And here is Didi Gregorius, who's done nothing but hit the ball hard here in Seoul. This one he gets underneath it a little bit to left. Cody Decker for out number 2. So he just missed that one, but my oh my, as he squared up some balls, as it was just double after double after double, hitting the ball all over the place here at Gochuck Sky Dome, and again had that big RBI double in the 8th inning. That tied the game, and then in the 9th, a walk-off walk gave the Dutch team the win, and ultimately a trip to Tokyo. But Didi is retired. That'll bring up Urindel de Caster, who's getting his first start here in Seoul. And he takes the first pitch for ball 1. And we've reached that part of the broadcast where they start making it miserable for us, rolling in all the delicious food around the ballpark. Thanks, gentlemen. Floated to right. Bornstein puts it away. Going to break, not a moment too soon. A quick 4th. It's 3-1. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain back with you here in Seoul, South Korea. Beautiful city, beautiful part of the world. Sad to see our time is coming to a close as pool play in the 2017 World Baseball Classic is wrapping up here in Pool A. As these two clubs who are in action this afternoon in Seoul, both moving on. Sam Fuld pops this one up. Will there be room for Ricardo? No. 1, 2, and 3 due up for Team Israel against Sulbaran, who is back out there. He came on in the 2nd inning, so his 3rd inning of work behind Rob Quartermans, who went the 1st inning, and that was it. 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. But as the veteran of this team, having worn the team and country colors for so long, hot shot to first, and DeCaster is there to make the catch. Just honoring Quartermans, and gets the 1st inning under his belt. You know, it happens once every 4 years. The World Baseball Classic finally here. Don't miss your chance to see the best players represent their country. Get your tickets now at worldbaseballclassic.com. Here's Ty Kelly, who walked in the 1st and came around to score. Struck out in the 2nd and takes a called strike. Ty Kelly, a 28-year-old from Dallas, 13th round pick of the Orioles in 2009. He's also played in the Cardinals, Blue Jays, Mets organizations right now. Career .280 hitter in the minor leagues. Doesn't really have a position, though, but he's seen a fair amount of third base throughout this 1st round of the WBC.
He's made the routine plays, and one of the guys that manager Jerry Weinstein said has given them a little bit more balance, a little bit extra dimension. They were very right-handed coming out of the qualifier. So being able to mix in some left-handed hitters to balance out that lineup.
So for Sulbaran, again, a 27-year-old in his 2nd WBC. Also played for the Dutch team at the 2008 Summer Olympics. Originally a 30th round pick of the Reds in 2008. And he issues the walk to Ty Kelly with 1 out in the 4th. A closer look at some of the international experience for Israel. Again, there was that qualifier in 2012 for the 2013 WBC. The modified double elimination format came back to bite them there, but they were able to win the qualifier final in September, finished with a 3-0 record, and they had the offense working there. They have since had the offense working here in Seoul, and even though they are something of an underdog to many, as Ike Davis rips one down the right field line, foul.
Well, we mentioned earlier that Ike has had that pull swing with authority. He's had his timing down pretty well. Just a little too quick. Easily home run distance. Just one of those just tracers. About 6 feet to the right of that foul pole.
Just to finish that point, even though the rankings show that there's something of an underdog, this team can make some noise in the WBC. A called strike to Ike Davis. And another point on that ball down the right field line. In pool play in the WBC, there is replay. However, it's limited to home runs if they go over the wall or if home runs are fair or foul. We've seen a couple of close plays that may have actually been safe or out, the opposite of what the call was on the field. Replay will expand as the tournament rolls along, but I mean, you could see here on this ball it was clearly foul, but again, had it been closer, that particular play would have been reviewable. But plays on the infield, fair or foul, floaters down the line or whatever it may be, not reviewable. But replay will expand as the tournament rolls along. A 1-2 to Ike Davis with Ty Kelly off of first. Davis skies one right center field, chasing Profar to the track. 2 away.
Ike's pretty locked in. Even his outs, you know, look like they have a chance. Deep to right center field. He was front-footed a little bit, but even when he's on his front foot, he still has so much power.
Well, Ike Davis on a minor league deal with the Dodgers, and clearly they already have a first baseman there in Adrian Gonzalez. I know they have a first baseman of the future as well in Bellinger, but that's a team that they've got a million outfielders, so they're not shy on depth at different positions, and Ike's look good. Nate Fryman takes low, an RBI double, and he scored in the first and flew out to right in the second. Mentioned that Fryman went to Duke, and it's there that he met his wife, Amanda Blumenhurst, who's a professional golfer. And while Fryman's not playing professional baseball, he has also served as her caddy. So
you think that's a good thing?
There's a lot of trust in that relationship, without question.
I'm sure there's times when the wills kind of collide. Well, it's 150 yards. I want you to hit a 7-iron. No, I like the 8. No, I said hit the 7.
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Us married guys, we know that. 3-1 to Fryman.
Yes, not only are you providing the play-by-play, but marriage counseling as well.
That's
You're
right.
very versatile, Paul.
Well, try to be well-rounded. Runner goes, no throw. It's ball 4 to Fryman anyway. 2 aboard and 2 outs here in the fourth. The 4th free pass for Sulbaron. 9 walks against Korea, 6 walks as a staff today. Hensley Mullins out to make a change. We are back to Seoul in a moment.
네덜란드의 스위칭입니다. Notice the flow of pitching change. Jim Ploeger.
Back here in Seoul, Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. Third pitcher of the afternoon for the Kingdom of the Netherlands is Jim Ploeger as he comes in relief of Sulbaran, who ended up going 2 2/3 innings. However, he did walk 4. As I mentioned, going to break, 6 walks issued by the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And in talking with Bert Blyleven, leading up to and through pool play, the game plan of the pitching staff is pitch to contact. And there has not been a whole heck of a lot of that, even though Israel has pounded out 5 hits as well. So there has been contact, but getting the ball to go on the ground. This is Zach Borenstein, 2 on 2 out.
Yeah, Bert is trying to get his pitching staff to really minimize the walks because they're not particularly what you would call stuff guys. Jar Jurgens, who started last night, a little bit off his game, probably has the best stuff, pure stuff on the pitching staff. But he's trying to get these pitchers to initiate contact early, minimize the base runners, staying out of the big innings, really putting emphasis on throwing the ball down and away, racking up ground balls, and really getting the team back in the dugout to do what they do best, and that's swing the bat.
Well, Ploeger's a 25-year-old who was the staff ace at the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Pitched in the U.S. for a few years, playing in the Hamptons and Cape Cod and Alaskan summer leagues, and now working for the Dutch in the WBC. 3 balls and no strikes to Borenstein, who had an RBI ground out in the first and singled in the third.
Ploeger, pretty much a situational left-hander, sweeping slider, almost throws at about a three-quarter angle. But Borenstein has had good swings against left-handers in this pool tournament as well. He's looked pretty confident up at the plate.
Ploeger's one of 2 lefties on the Dutch staff, more of a matchup guy. They also have Diego Marmarquel, who's more of a multi-inning guy. Hard hit ball, nice stab by Schoop, and he gets the out at second.
Wow.
Defense shows up for the Dutch, but they trail it 3-1. The streets of Seoul, South Korea. Beautiful city, hosting pool play in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, here with you at Go-Chuk Skydome as we move to the top of the 5th inning. Zach Thornton is the new pitcher for Team Israel. He'll face 8-9-1 for the Dutch. Thornton, a 28-year-old from Los Angeles, who was added to the active roster, replacing Craig Breslow, who's on Israel's designated pitchers pool. Faces Ricardo, Odubert, and Simmons in the 5th.
Yeah, Breslow was asked to go to big league camp with the Minnesota Twins with an eye on winning a job, which is one of the reasons why he is, after that, so far has pitched well in spring training, trying to be a late add-on to the Twins bullpen. Thornton, 88-93, sinking fastball, slider, cutter, changeup, pretty basic stuff. He used to say the guys coming out of the bullpen, sinker slider types, and he used the slider right there to strike out Ricardo.
So one away as the number 9 hitter, Randolph Odubert, steps in. Walked and came around to score in the 3rd. Down and away to Odubert.
Come on, guys.
That would be the king of the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
That's right. And that lion has been here for every game. And if you go outside, you need to be bundled up like that. It's chilly here.
Yep.
A lot colder than I would have thought.
Courage, courage. What a ham.
Chop to 3rd. Low hop for Kelly on the run to make the play.
It's pretty good for a guy that they were trying to find a position for. Talked earlier about how he'd made all the routine plays and has good rhythm as he, commits to this. Tough little short hop. He was kind of digging around into the glove a little bit once he found the handle. Just a second dig into the glove and a good accurate throw over to first base.
So 2 outs on 8 pitches here in the 5th. Top of the lineup, Andrelton Simmons takes a called strike. Simmons 0 for 2, but with a couple of hits the other night, became the all-time hits leader for the Kingdom of the Netherlands in World Baseball Classic play. Of course, Simmons is the shortstop of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. He's had pretty good success in the World Baseball Classic. This is his 2nd go-around. Hit .333, couple of homers, 3 doubles, 6 RBIs, 10 runs scored in the 2013 tournament. But he goes down swinging here as the Dutch set down in order in the 5th. We're midway through it in Seoul, 3-1. In Seoul, South Korea. Pool play of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Paul Severino and Joe McGrain with you. From outside to inside, Go-Chuk Skydome. I've had a fun time out here, a wonderful experience. Taking a tour of the city. Checked out places probably never would have seen otherwise.
And the city is just beautiful with the architecture, and it is spotless. It is clean. My only complaint is you can't find trash cans anywhere. You finish your bottle of water and you want to get rid of the plastic, and it's so clean. I don't know who's picking everything up, but the place is spotless.
It certainly is. 4th pitcher of this ball game for the Dutch as Orlando Intima is in to pitch. He'll face Ryan Lavarnway to lead things off in the 5th. 6, 7, and 8 due up for Israel. Cody Decker and Tyler Krieger behind him. That's the other thing about this city in having, we had a bit of a guided tour the other day. And perhaps I'm just naive. I will certainly chalk it up to that. But having someone tell us this particular gate has been here for centuries is just like mind-blowing, because there aren't that type of landmarks in the United States that have been around for centuries. As Ryan Lavarnway is aboard with a hard hit ball to right field to lead things off here in the 5th. But I'll plead naivete on that for sure.
Moving on. Ryan Lavarnway just takes a pitch right down the middle of the plate, and I was remarking earlier that this is a power-laden hitting lineup, but these guys have been very consistent in their approach, just taking what the pitcher gives them and shooting that ball to right field. It's been a real intelligent hitting approach that Team Israel has had, having so much to do with their success.
A 1-0 to Cody Decker, who is 1 for 2. He singled in the first, that 3-run first inning for Team Israel. Didn't go around. 2 balls and no strikes.
Intima, just a basic fastball slider guy. Low 90s. A decent pop on that fastball.
He's 31 years old, pitched in the 2013 WBC, gave up 2 runs and 3 2/3 against Cuba in his lone start. Also pitched a game in relief. Signed by the Giants in 2003 and spent 4 years in the organization. 2004, 6, 8, and 2009. And now the 2-1 to Decker. Up and in, 3-1.
It's a pretty crisp fastball. He's popping the mitt.
And now the 3-1 is fouled back. You know, both of these teams, again, as they continue to gear up, knowing that they're going to end up in Tokyo for round 2. We've seen a host of pitchers, 5 so far for Team Israel. And even though Thornton worked quick in the 5th, one can assume that it'll just be 1 inning and out for him. And Intima, the 4th pitcher for the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Although Robbie Quarterman's worked quite a bit in the first. Runner goes on 3-2. And this one is skied toward left center field. It'll be Audubert for out number 1. That's the thing. It's Thursday here in Seoul, and I'll get that in a second. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of World Baseball Classic Incorporated. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. So again, Thursday in Seoul, these 2 teams won't play again. The first game in round 2 is on Sunday in Tokyo. So it's just a matter of staying sharp. And you also wonder if at some point we'll see some wholesale changes either in the lineup or on the defensive side of things, as Tyler Krieger is ahead in the count, of 1 and no strikes. Krieger's reached base twice, a walk and a fielder's choice. He's been on base an awful lot, and he's been up in big spots too. He's been up with the bases loaded 3-4 times throughout these first few games. So he has had his chances. Youngster in the Indians organization.
A switch hitter with some real good actions. More of a second baseman's arm. He's got quick feet, pivots well around the bag, turning 2. He's run some pretty good at-bats.
You know, we've talked about the underdog story that Team Israel has been coming into this tournament, but the more that they win games, the more attention they will get for sure, as Krieger draws the walk. The more attention that they get, but the more confidence that they'll feel. How about that dynamic for Jerry Weinstein's bunch?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will have to do, we'll see in game 1 in Tokyo, with Jason Marquis no doubt will be starting, and with them extending the pitch counts the further they advance, how long that they would go with a guy like Marquis, who has a very good sinker if he's pitching well. If Jerry Weinstein tries to kind of change his philosophy as to how he's managing the pitching staff, will he try to get length out of Marquis, or will he continue to just vary the looks? Because he said, each time I make a pitching change, I want that next pitcher to look and throw completely different from the previous one, to where no hitter gets a chance to get a level of comfort in timing a guy, a familiarity with his release point, his delivery. See hitters with leg kicks, they try to have that leg kick along with the pitcher to time him. And you have guys who throw with different tempos. You can see how that could upset that timing.
And 0-1 to Scott Bertram, who lays down the bunt, and it's a beauty down the third base line. Bogaerts waits, and it goes foul. And even though Bogaerts doesn't have a lot of experience, he's got plenty of it, but knows enough to wait for that thing to roll, can judge the spin.
Well, he was highlighting that into foul territory, making sure that it did not come back, was not taking any chances that it, would maybe land in a spike mark and change directions.
With 2 on, Bertram has done that before. He bunted with the bases loaded. It was a bases clearing bunt the other day against Chinese Taipei, as he is set down on strikes for out number 2 here in the 5th. As we continue to talk about how the game in Israel is growing, as we just saw the strikeout there to Scott Bertram, his backstory on how he got onto this roster is certainly an interesting one.
Yeah, they were scouring
Sam, come on.
all forms of organized baseball, looking for a shortstop of Jewish heritage, and actually settled on Scott Bertram's mother's Facebook page. And after doing some research, found out that he did come from a Jewish background. So thanks to Facebook for having Scott Bertram on Team Israel.
So that's
a new form of scouting right there.
That's absolutely right. His Fuld chops one to the right side, the flip, and the out. Israel leaves a couple aboard here in the 5th as we roll along in Seoul to the 6th, 3-1. More sights from Seoul, host of Pool A play in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. It's been a fun time out here in Seoul, South Korea. But today is the final day of Pool A play, as we know who's moving on. Team Israel and the Kingdom of the Netherlands, with wins in each of their first 2 games, headed to Tokyo for round 2. New pitcher is Alex Katz, a 22-year-old from Long Island, New York. 27th round pick of the White Sox in 2015, delivers a called strike to Jurickson Profar. Profar is 2 for 2. He singled in the first and doubled in the third. And with those 2 hits today, Profar is 5 for 10 in this WBC. That also includes a home run in his first at bat the other night against Korea, a loud home run to right field.
Down and into his nitro zone. Look where this thing lands. It hits in the back wall of the stadium, just to the right of the scoreboard. He was able to get a lot of leverage on that, and of course the Texas Rangers window of success still open, and only bettered by having Profar into that lineup.
And now he will test the gap in right center field, and with a fast track, it'll get all the way to the wall. Profar to second. He's not going to stop. On his way to third, the throw. Got him! Terrific relay by Israel, and Profar is cut down at third.
Good on Profar for really squaring that up, and of course the fast track to the gap. And the other thing that this underscores, we've talked about the fundamentals of Team Israel, was just hitting the relay man, and a good strong throw from Bertram to get Profar at third base. Looked like he was going to be in there easily. We've seen Profar outrun the ball, but not the throw of Bertram there. So kudos to Israel for friending Bertram on Facebook.
So now it's Xander Bogaerts after the 9-6-5 relay to cut down Jurickson Profar for out number 1. We talked an awful lot about the defense of the Dutch and their infield and their sure hands we've seen over 3 games that Israel can pick it too, and the fundamentals of relays like that, or even the spectacular plays by Scott Burcham at short, or Tyler Krieger at second base, Sam Fuld in center field. They're well balanced on the defensive side of things too.
Yeah, some of the players were lamenting the fact that, well, we have these long practices, and Jerry Weinstein's putting in all these different bunt defenses, and you start to see with the practice of the relays and taking of infield how that definitely pays off.
Shallow right in is Borenstein. 2 away.
They don't have, obviously, the pure athletic ability that Netherlands has, the Gold Glove caliber infield, but they make the routine plays. They don't give extra outs. And, you know, it's not a particularly athletic defense, but it's a serviceable and effective one.
And speaking of effective, the Israel pitching staff has been just that. Has just 25 pitches thrown to get the last 8 outs. First one to Ballantine misses. 1-0.
Alan Katz, a favorite of pitching coach Andrew Lorraine, really likes his stuff. Very lively fastball in the hitting zone, a lot of movement, very difficult to catch, and of course, if he's difficult to catch, he's difficult to hit. A good live fastball, you know, still the best pitch in baseball. People say, well, it's a slider or it's a split-fingered fastball, but a fastball with late life and late movement, that's the one to have.
And this is a guy who can certainly turn around a good fastball, and Vladimir Ballantine set the Japanese single-season record with 60 home runs in 2013. An injury-riddled 2015 season, bounced back 31 homers, 96 RBIs in 132 games last year. He draws the walk with 2 away here in the 6th. Mentioned Katz out of St. John's University, was one of 6 St. John's players taken in that 2015 draft. It tied a school record. As the pitching coach Angela Rain will come out. You see the pitching breakdown. They call it Johnny Holstaff. It's that type of day for Team Israel. A little break in the action between today and when things get going in Tokyo. As Korea and Chinese Taipei still upcoming here to wrap up Pool A play in Seoul. 6:30 local time first pitch.
Andrew Lorraine, not real big on mechanics. Of course, you have these guys for a very short time. You can't do delivery rebuilds, but you know, you just talk about having a certain plan, and he's big on making competitive pitches. Non-competitive pitches, not the fact that he's not out there competing, but non-competitive pitches mean that pitches that never look like strikes, that never really entice the hitter to offer at.
Jonathan Scope looking to get things going. He's got just 1 hit and 10 trips in Seoul. Takes a look at strike 2. 25-year-old second baseman of the Baltimore Orioles in his 2nd WBC. Made his Dutch national team debut in 2011 at the Baseball World Cup, where his team won gold, and his brother Charlin is on this team as well. High chop. Tough play. Kelly on the bare hand comes up empty.
Well, it was going to be bare hand or not at all. And he was kind of a little in between. And you know, we've talked about the fast track. It also has some irregular bounces. And that would have been, you know, sensational just to come up with it, because he was in a short hop part of the hop, and even if he comes up with that cleanly, that may not have been enough. Scope, a big man, still runs pretty well.
So again, this game for seeding in Tokyo, as both of these teams are 2-0 to this point, and now a chance with 1 swing of the bat and the guy perhaps swinging the hottest stick in this lineup at the dish. Valentine at second, Scope at first for Didi Gregorius, who is 5 for 10. With maybe 4 of those 5 hits have been stung. 3 doubles last night, including the one that tied it in the 8th. Big swing and a miss, 0-1. Didi, the 27-year-old shortstop of the Yankees, born in the Netherlands, spent most of his life, though, in Curacao. Played second base next to Andrelton Simmons from the ages of 6 to 16. And finally got a chance to play short. The 0-1. High drive, center field. A few steps back. Fold makes the catch. 2 men stranded for the Dutch. They trail it 3-1. Full City, as we roll along, final day of pool play in the 2017 WBC here in Seoul. Now we'll look inside as the new pitcher Lars Heyer takes over. His first pitch to Ty Kelly. The numbers there for Heyer in the Dutch League in 2016. Second time we've seen him here in this WBC. Pitched yesterday, but because he stayed south of 30 pitches, he could come back another day. 2 innings, 5 hits, and 3 runs against Chinese Taipei. They will test Scope. Knocks it down, stays with it. Not in time, an infield single for Ty Kelly.
Boy, after the play that Scope made earlier in the game, looked like he would have had that in his back pocket. It just kind of caught him in the heel of the glove, causing it to bounce out.
I jumped the gun on infield singles in E4.
Ball was stung as well.
I'd be a very nice official scorer. I think that's really what it boils down to. It's the first error of the tournament for the Dutch squad, with all their fine defense. So now it's Ike Davis. Singled and scored in the first, a strikeout and a flyout.
See how they go after Ike Davis, who's, when he's pulled the ball, he's definitely done it with authority. Heyer's best pitch, the sinker. Changes speeds well, good control. Trying to sink the ball away from him, and in hopes that he pulls off the ball, trying to neutralize that power of Big Ike.
A look there at Heyer, 23-year-old, who broke into the Dutch League at the age of 16 in 2010. Signed a minor league deal with the Mariners in 2011, but topped out at high A ball in 2014, where he posted a ERA right around 6.5. And he'll deal a 2-1 to Ike Davis, whose career looked like it was certainly headed on the up track for sure. As we mentioned before, the organizational player of the year for the Mets in 2009, got to the big leagues, a top 10 finish in the rookie of the year. But the career derailed a little bit, had a case of valley fever back in 2012. And then he really continued to deal with those symptoms through 2014. He's had a taste of the big leagues here and there, Yankees, Pirates, A's, now on a minor league deal with the Dodgers as well, but getting back to and staying in the major leagues has been the thing for Ike Davis. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And he looks at ball 3.
It's a complicated swing, and the biggest challenge that he has had is really tried to shorten those slumps. And before with the Mets, sometimes they would really be for extended periods, not from, lack of work and that work ethic, trying to iron it out. But sometimes that swing has a lot of moving parts.
He draws the walk. 2 runners aboard right now in the bottom of the 6th for Team Israel. They lead this one 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning. And they are hopeful to get out of pool play with a 3-0 record and improve their seeding in Tokyo in round 2 as they await the 2 teams who advance out of Pool B.
And more than that, it would be just a great story about growing the base in Israel. The interest, it's something that has really captured the fancy of not only people in the States, but back in Israel, of course.
And now Nate Fryman with Kelly at second, Davis at first. The 0-1. Covered it before, but to Joe's point about growing the game back in Israel, the hope is for as much as they love the major league experience that's on this roster, the hope is that the next time this WBC comes around, they won't have to rely so much on this type of power from the States as much as they can rely on some of the power that will be developing back home in Israel. But I'm sure for now they will, without question, take the pop up and down this lineup. And the 1-2 goes behind him. Both runners will advance. I don't think that got a piece of Fryman, so he'll stay in the box.
That's in the real danger zone right there, because normally your instinct is to move back, and if Fryman was to move back, he would have moved right into it, and he just froze, and that'll definitely get his attention, get that heart rate going. He's lucky that he did not move back. That one would have stung.
Between the 24 pitches that Heyer threw the other night and the 13, he's getting an awful lot of work in. The other night, last night actually. Infield now in with runners on second and third. Inside, and the count runs full.
I'm going to have to amend that scouting report. I said he had very good control and command. Yeah, command of the backstop.
Payoff pitch coming to Fryman. Stays alive. Been a ton of base runners for Israel so far in this tournament. Their team is hitting, has a .438 on base percentage. And every inning it seems like they've got a guy on. Just in this game alone, they've left 3, 1, 2, 2, and 2 on base.
It's the way it was in game 1 against Korea. That's the pitch that's difficult for Fryman to hit with those long arms. He gets tied up on that boring fastball on the inner part of the plate. His power comes with extension, middle away, down, where you have more time to get to it. Swings a little bit long, but on the barrel produces a lot of pop.
Well, that got him right on the hip. It's like he had a target on him that at bat, as Heyer has now loaded the bases with nobody out in the 6th inning. So of the 31 plate appearances, now 15 have reached base.
What? It's like he was a mosquito bite or something.
He's a big boy.
What was that?
He can handle it. As they go out to settle down Heyer.
Yeah, after all those pitches got away from him against Fryman, he's got to be wondering, where is the next one going now with the bases loaded and having to throw strikes? Nobody out, and a chance for a big inning.
Not just the base runners scattered throughout their 3 games so far for Team Israel, but the fact that it seems 3 times in the opener against Korea, they left the bases loaded. Another time in yesterday's game, they left the bases loaded in the first today. So they have had an awful lot of opportunities. And again, this game's just for seeding, but if you look going forward, they're going to need to capitalize on these opportunities, kind of the way they did against Chinese Taipei.
Yeah, they got the jump on them early, but against Korea, a lot of opportunities lost, and fortunate to come out of that game with the win, the upset win. And yeah, that was a game that they could have blown out Korea with all the base runners that they had. They just didn't capitalize.
Now the 1-1 to Borenstein. Grounded to short. Didi, the flip. And they double him up, but a run will score to make it 4-1. Goes down as a 6-4-3 double play. No RBI on the play, but a 3-run cushion now for Israel.
Yeah, that's the shirt that's become very popular with the players, and also a special hello to Lisa Litvak with MLB Network back in Secaucus, who is watching and said that I got to have one of those.
Bring up Ryan Lavarnway, who's reached in 9 of his 12 plate appearances, 5 for 8 with 3 walks and a hit by pitch and a home run.
Yeah, the Jewish team has had a lot of team building things. You've got the Mensch on the bench after kind of a takeoff on the Elf on the Shelf, and the Jew Crew T-shirt, a takeoff on the Brew Crew, the old Milwaukee Brewers, back in the Harvey's Wallbangers era. Harvey Keene, the manager, had a lot of guys that hit home runs: Gorman Thomas, Ben Ogilvy, Sal Bando. It's a tight-knit bunch.
It'll be a 1-2 to Lavarnway. A swing and a miss, strike 3. But Israel puts another run on the board. They've got a 4-1 lead. Welcome back to Seoul. Here's a look at your game summary. First inning, Israel got things going with a Nate Fryman RBI double. Ryan Lavarnway added another with this RBI single, part of a 3-run frame. The only run scored for the Dutch on this RBI ground out by Xander Bogaerts. But they now trail this one 4-1. As we play on here at Go Chuck Skydope, Paul Severino, Joe McGrain. As we move to the top of the 7th inning, new pitcher is Dylan Axelrod, and he'll face 7, 8, 9 for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, as the 0-1 pitch gets a piece of Urandel de Caster.
Well, I hope this game doesn't devolve into bean balls. Oh, no, that's breaking ball. No intent.
So with DeCaster off of first, Axelrod will work against the catcher Deshenko Ricardo. Second time we've seen Axelrod in this WBC. Worked 2/3 of an inning and got a strikeout against Chinese Taipei in the 15-7 victory. A 1-0 with DeCaster off of first. Chopped. Axelrod gets to it. Throws. Nice
What a
pick
play.
at second. Oh, Scotty Burcham. Wow. all in one motion to pick it out of the dirt. And the double play will certainly help Axelrod.
Boy, that's the second time we've seen Israel pitcher throw an errant double play throw to second base. Burcham just, I don't know how he comes up with this. On the run with the runner bearing down on him, a scoop, and all in one motion throwing that over to first base. That was pretty. That ball should have been in center field. And attaboy, yes, he can pick it. No accident.
Well, it all worked out. They had to do their digging, try to find a shortstop rather to fill out the roster, and I'm thinking they got the right guy.
And then some. Look at it, foot staying on the bag, scooping it at the same time, throwing on the run with the runner bearing down on him. All kinds of good right there.
Now this Israel defense has turned 5 double plays as we're into the 7th inning of their 3rd game. Slick defense behind the pitching staff. A ball and 2 strikes to Randolph Odubert. Hard ground ball. Gobbled up by Krieger. Through 6.5 here in Seoul. Scott Burcham with a huge defensive play to pick up his pitcher. 4-1 Israel. Welcome back to Gochuck Skydome here in Seoul. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. Another pitcher on for the Kingdom of the Netherlands as Tom de Blok, a 20-year-old who signed a minor league deal with the Mariners in August of 2013 when he was just 17 years old, will take over for the Dutch squad. Their 6th pitcher of the afternoon, and he'll face a pinch hitter in Blake Galen.
See that microscopic earned run average, good strikeout to walk ratio, and Bert Blyleven really likes de Blok and thinks he, as an up-and-coming 20-year-old, has a chance to pitch in the latter part of the ball game, high leverage situations.
Galen coming off the bench for the first time in the WBC, 1 for 7 with 3 strikeouts as a starter. Galen, 31 years old, from California. We'll see a 2-0 pitch coming here from de Blok. Of his 10 professional seasons, spent parts of 3 of those years in affiliated ball, the rest in independent leagues. Reached as high as AAA with the Blue Jays in 2013. Pops this one up. Ricardo and Bogarts chase. It'll be Ricardo for out number 1. So you think this is a good thing that this game is just for seeding, in the sense that they've worked in, both sides have worked in a lot of pitchers. They can get that first taste of the WBC out of their system and now kind of gear up for round 2.
Yeah, I think because, especially from Israel's side of things and the way that Jerry Weinstein manipulates his pitching staff, you know, one of the more difficult things is for relievers, and they'll have to do that at the Tokyo Dome as well. They're pitching, you know, kind of in this bunker, and you really don't really have the same kind of perspective. All of a sudden, you come onto the field, and it's kind of a sensory overload. In fact, Bert Blyleven has talked about how he doesn't really like that setup. But to get these guys out there and get familiar and allot themselves those warm-up pitches, get used to the mound, and know that, you know, everybody is going to pitch, and have that familiarity so you don't get that jolt of adrenaline that sometimes can be paralyzing to your command and throwing quality pitches. And de Blok with a good running fastball there. A beautiful swing of Tyler Krieger. can't catch up to it. He's got a pretty swing from both sides of the plate.
Now here's the slick fielding Scott Burcham, and he gets rewarded with a knock up the middle. Schoop corrals it and then throws it away. And now Burcham will hustle towards second to throw. Got him. A lot of moving parts on that play. And Jerry Weinstein comes out. He wants to see with the first base umpire, Chikara Sugawa, just what happened. And now the first base umpire will talk with Brian Knight and call him over. I wonder if there was perhaps contact with the first baseman or not. We'll get another look.
I wonder if that was interference by the first baseman. See, ball with that high hop, and he's holding him. Either that or, you know, it was shall we dance.
Well, this view will show him taking the turnaround first and then heading back. He can't totally see it.
You can see that. Hello there.
Oh, he got him on both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if Jerry Weinstein can convince the umpiring crew whether or not there was that interference. And it looks like it's getting waved off. So, after all that, the inning is over. We dance to break, 4-1 through 7. Back here in Seoul, Paul Severino and Joe McGrain as Jeremy Bleish takes over for Israel, up 4-1. First pitch swinging for Andrelton Simmons. It's fouled away. Simmons 0 for 3. Simmons, Profar, and Bogarts, top third of the lineup for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, trailing by 3. Again, this game just for seeding for round 2. Both of these clubs headed to Tokyo for the second round of the World Baseball Classic. Both teams come in at a perfect 2-0 record, having beaten the two teams that will square off tonight, Korea and Chinese Taipei. And what's at stake tonight is a win increases the chance of not having to qualify for the next WBC. So you want to pick up a win. There's still combinations and permutations that you, even with a W, could have to qualify, but if you're winless, it's all but a sure thing. So a big one tonight here in Seoul. Simmons swings and misses, 2-2.
And Paul, the great thing about the success of both of these teams is it's going to, you know, further and grow the game in both of their countries, and also create a great deal more interest for players wanting to get in on the act the next time around. So as good as these teams have been, we could actually see the next WBC where they would even be better.
Well, that's the hope. There we go. Let's get excited.
That seems like a fun bunch over there, doesn't it?
The 2-2 to Simmons is skied out toward right center field. Fuld giving chase, and he will make the play in the gap. 1 out.
All of that tambourine activity got me distracted. There's a new pitcher, Paul.
Yes, it's Jeremy Bleish. And this is Charlin Schoop, who took over defensively for Jurickson Profar in the last half inning, and now getting his first crack at the WBC.
Oh, you can also exfoliate with it as well.
So Profar is lifted for the defensive replacement in Schoop. His Pool play is done at 6 for 11. So he had the bat working, the homer the other night in the opener to help set the tone for the Dutch. And now it's Charlon Scope, a 29-year-old, the older brother of Jonathan, signed by the Orioles in 2013, just a couple of months after Jonathan's major league debut.
Boy, the Scope brothers, imposing size. I think of Jonathan at 6'2", 230 as a second baseman for the Orioles. You stand next to him, and I mean, it is a big 6'2". He's a big man.
The two brothers that currently live together in Baltimore as well, so they're certainly tight. Chop to third. Kelly on the run. Oh boy. Avoided a big time collision at first, as Fryman kind of fell back into the base path, and Scope able to avoid him, thankfully.
Boy, he's thinking, wow, that was a close one, and if he was able to come up with that, I think he's still, yeah, he was on the bag. He probably still would have got the call, but it looked like he wrenched his neck a little bit, and wisely trying to get out of the baseline, because that could have been ugly.
Flatten himself out as much as he could there. So it goes down as an E5 for Ty Kelly. Second error of the tournament for Israel. And now it's Xander Bogaerts, the number 3 hitter and third baseman. He's got the lone RBI in this ball game for the Dutch. A ribby ground out in the third.
Seeing all kinds of instruments with these fans.
Xander Bogaerts takes low. Hit 294 with 21 home runs, 115 runs scored, and 13 stolen bases in 2016. And just for good measure, added a 26-game hit streak as well. As the Netherlands hoping to bust out here for a couple of runs and make this a much closer game with time winding down for them. There's 5 more offensive outs to play with.
So that's the king of the Netherlands and his court jester.
These guys have been suited up like this for
every day,
all 3 games. It's great. Where'd the lion go? Oh, you know what? I spotted the lion out of the corner of my eye. We're supposed
there
to
he
see
is.
a mascot with the hat off.
Uh-oh.
Come on. Well, I guess it's not a real lion. Bogaerts walks. Springing to action to hide his identity.
Yeah, put the mane back on.
Well, with all the tomfoolery and hijinks, we've got the tying run coming to the plate here with 1 out in the 8th inning. And a guy who can make this a 4-4 ball game with 1 swing in Vladimir Ballantine. However, he'll face a new pitcher here in Seoul. 4-1. We're back. A look outside Gocheok Skydome here in Seoul, South Korea. Beautiful facility, opened in 2015, hosting pool play in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. First time Korea has hosted the first round, and now it's Josh Zeid. You see his numbers at AAA and AA with the New York Mets last season. We saw Zeid earlier in this tournament. In fact, he worked 3 innings in that extra inning affair against Korea. And he threw 49 pitches, got the last out of the game on the 49th pitch. Had he thrown 50, he would not have been available because of the requisite rest after a 50-pitch outing. That's when he struck out Dae-Ho Lee, swinging to end it, a noted power threat. And he's got another one here in Vladimir Ballantine as the tying run in the top of the 8th in a 4-1 game. Charlon Scope at second, Bogaerts at first.
We'll see how this plays out. Jerry Weinstein has had the magic touch with his manipulation of his pitching staff and bringing in the strong arm Zaid. Sometimes the plate can bounce around on him a little bit, but a good lively fastball and a tight slider. His, for more or less, his high leverage situational pitcher.
Oh, good, he's back. Thank goodness. There's be kids out there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go is right. Josh Zaid, a 29-year-old from New Haven, Connecticut, 10th round pick of the Phillies in 2009. Sent to the Astros as part of the Hunter Pence deal in 2011. Dealing with 2 on, 1 out, top 8, tying run, Vladimir Ballantine. Takes a look at ball 3, 3-1. As Jonathan Scope waits on deck. The 3-1 is upstairs, and the bases are loaded. Well, this has a similar feel to last night's game, Joe.
You're right.
With the Kingdom of the Netherlands kind of just plodding along, staying in the game. A heavy favorite in pool play, but trailing for most of it until the 8th inning when they tied it thanks to Didi Gregorius, and then winning it on a walk-off walk in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah, I mentioned Zaid's fastball can kind of elude him as far as the location goes, but not the velocity. You know, one of the harder throwers in this pool play. That fastball has been right around the 94 mark. But you have to execute location, location, location. Looking to sink one pitch and get out of it. Be having designs on hitting it to the sure-handed Burcham at short. Turning 2.
Charlon Scope, Xander Bogaerts, Vladimir Ballantine, your runners. 3rd to 1st. Jonathan Scope, your batter. Got a hit in the 6th. Part of a 1-for-3 night. Trailing by 3 with the tying runs aboard. Zaid deals. Swing and a miss, 0-1.
Took a one-swing shot right there. Let the barrel out.
Josh Zaid's also pitched in the Tigers, Angels, and Mets organizations, currently a free agent. Big spot here in the 8th, the 0-1. Did he go? He did not. 1-1.
I thought he went around there and got the benefit of the call. He was definitely sitting on the fastball. That one could have literally gone either way.
How the at-bat changes from 1-1 to 0-2, but it'll be a 1-1. Swing and a miss. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I mentioned that he's throwing 94, so Scope has to start things a little earlier. Commit to the fastball. Wonder if he goes back to the slider. He had a checked swing, and if it's one of a little bit more quality, he's got a chance to punch him out.
Bases loaded, 1 out in the 8th in a 4-1 game. The pitch to second. Krieger, high throw, no out at second, and a run comes in to score. Yeah,
one of the few times that Krieger has kind of had that play really speed up on him. It's a hard hit ball, just a made-to-order double play, and he gets a little too hurried and not quite collecting of himself. All he needs is an accurate throw, and it's an inning-ending double play.
So it scored an E4 with an RBI for Jonathan Schoop. And now it's 4-2 with the tying runs in scoring position for the guy who tied it in the 8th inning last night, Didi Gregorius.
Boy, not the guy you want to see coming up.
Again, Krieger. 1, 2. Krieger gets a chance to redeem himself. Israel will head to the bottom of the 8th with a 4-2 lead. Back here in Seoul, Paul Severino, Joe McGrain as Luke Van Mille takes over. Second time we've seen this tall righty in the WBC. Worked an inning, gave up a hit, and struck out a batter against Korea. 7 feet 1 inches, and he delivers ball 1 to Sam Fuld. You see his numbers in the Dutch League in 2016. 32 years old in his second WBC. And a base hit into right field for Sam Fuld.
Little Sam versus Big Luke. The advantage, Sam.
Yeah, so Sam Fuld comes in at 5'9", 180. And Luke Van Mille is 7'1", 260.
The tail of the tape.
Yes, but David beats Goliath for a leadoff single.
Well, Van Mille has been throwing 93, 94 miles an hour, and we had the scouting reports saying that he could throw as high as 98. And so you're talking about a guy that's 7 feet 1, coordinating those long arms and legs to where he was cracking the whip with that release point, and guys on the bus were teasing him. Where's the 98? I thought you were rushing it up there. He's throwing around 93 miles an hour right now, 149 kilometers per hour.
But it's got to seem faster when he's handing it to the catcher.
Well, that's the effective velocity, how close he's releasing it to the plate. And he has, you know, for his size, a pretty athletic delivery.
So this is Ty Kelly. He's scored a couple of runs in this one with a runner off of first and nobody out in the 8th. The other way, and Odubert had to wait a second and judge that one in. His perhaps gotten into the lights a little bit, but he's able to hang with it for out number 1.
Well, when you have some height, you try to think about being tall over the pitching rubber and going down the slope of the mound, kind of tall and fall, just trying to engage that back leg driving towards the plate. And for someone that's 7'1", he has kind of a short stride. If he had one of those long strides that really using his legs, you would think that his foot would have a chance of landing close to the turf out in front of the mound.
That one squirts all the way to the backstop, and advancing to second base is Sam Fuld.
Yeah, with the on-deck hitter, Nate Fryman, we have a chance to have one of baseball's firsts here, Paul.
That's right. We'll explain in just a moment.
No spoilers.
No. The 0-1 misses to Ike Davis. A little more background on Van Mille. Came out of the bullpen 4 times in the 2013 tournament. Earned the win in the Dutch team's 7-6 victory over Cuba. And trying to keep this at a 4-2 deficit in the bottom of the 8th. As Davis fouls it away.
The one thing that's weird with Van Mille throwing, 93, 94 is the swings have been pretty good. They've been on time. Some people throw what you call like a hard 94. Some people throw a soft 94, and that's all about deception, about seeing the ball, recognizing it or not.
Davis floats that one foul. Nice play there by the third base coach, Tom Gamboa. Good hands. Sam Fuld on at second base. He led off the inning with a single. Moved to second on a wild pitch. Little insurance run for Team Israel at second. That one in the dirt to Davis, and the count now even, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Davis singled and came around to score in the first. Struck out in the second, flew out in the fourth, and walked in the sixth. Chance to tack on to a 4-2 lead now in the eighth, and the 2-2. Just misses, count runs full. Nate Fryman on deck. Swing and a miss, strike 3. That's out number 2 here in the eighth inning. So here it is. Likely the tallest matchup ever between a batter and a pitcher in a professional baseball game.
Not that guy.
Not with Sam Fuld. No, not Sam Fuld. These two gentlemen with a combined 165 inches between the two of them.
6'8" versus 7'1". Never been done before in professional baseball.
And not often when a guy who's 6'8" is looking way up at somebody else.
Yeah, I just wonder the sight lines for the hitter. Even if you are 6'8", you have a guy that's 7'1" standing on top of a 10-inch mound.
It's like something out of the WWE. Coming in at 6'8", 245, Nate Fryman. And 7'1", 260 at a combined 505 pounds. There's your tail of the tape right there. Again, we say likely the tallest matchup because you go back to the minor leagues in the early 1900s, may not have the greatest information on players, so we say likely, but a little bit of baseball history right here. Again, 165 combined inches between hitter and pitcher. A ball and 2 strikes with Fuld off of second. That one's in the dirt and it goes to the backstop, and Fuld will move to third.
Wild pitch.
An insurance run now 90 feet away for Team Israel, up 4-2 in the bottom of the eighth. The pitch to Fryman. Did he go? He did not. Count runs full. Due up for the Dutch in the ninth inning. Their last hope to go undefeated here in the first round of the WBC. 7, 8, and 9. DeCaster, Ricardo, and Odubert scheduled to hit. The payoff to Fryman. Misses low.
So just like that, the tallest matchup in pro baseball history came and went.
오바타자 공격수 홈스팀 왼쪽
First and third for Zach Borenstein, who drove in a run with a ground ball in the first. And another run came home on a double play in the sixth. First and third, 2 outs. Big swing by Borenstein. He comes up empty, 0-1.
He's been barreling up the ball with pretty good consistency in this Pool A tournament. And Van Mill's fastball is more effective when it's up. Not that far up. But it was a good one to strike out Ike Davis above the belt. Of course, when you're 7'1", you're throwing it downhill, tough to get on top of.
So imperative that the Dutch hold it right here. Again, it's for seeding going forward. Both of these teams moving on to Tokyo in round 2, but it's more of a scheduling thing and when you can get your rest and spreading out your pitchers a certain way that might be more beneficial to the team that advances as the Pool A winner. First and third, 2 out to Borenstein, and that one misses inside, now 2-2. Tapped foul at the plate, and Borenstein stays alive. Borenstein played 2016 at AAA with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Came into this one 3 for his first 9 in the WBC. But he swings and misses to end the 8th. The Dutch team will have a chance to tie it in the 9th. Welcome back. Here is a look at what's going on here in Pool A in Seoul. Israel and Korea had the first game of not only pool play, but the entire WBC in 2017. Israel won in extra innings, 2-1 over the host country. Korea has since lost 2 games, so they and Chinese Taipei will play tonight in hopes of avoiding having to qualify for the next WBC. Still some unfinished business here as we roll along to the top of the 9th inning. As Josh Zeid back out there, he came on in relief in the middle of the 8th inning. And he'll face 7, 8, and 9. DeCaster, Ricardo, and Odubert for the Dutch, down by 2. High drive, right field, plenty of room though for Borenstein, and there's one away.
Yeah, bottom of the order for Kingdom of Netherlands. 2 more outs for Israel to get, which I think would be an outstanding story for them as both of these teams are going forward. But for Israel to go forward as the winner of this pool should really stack them up in the world rankings.
Now it's Deschenko, Ricardo, a couple of strikeouts. Grounded into a double play, a slickly turned double play in the 7th. It was tapped right back to Dylan Axelrod, who kind of threw it in the dirt a little bit, but Scott Burcham was able to get to it, keep his toe on the bag, and complete the double play. Now he bats with nobody on and 1 out. Much more conventional out this time. 2 down. And Team Israel is 1 out away from going undefeated through pool play. You know, I think that even though both of these teams, or at least I would guess, that since even though both of these teams are moving on to Tokyo, they know their near future, that Team Israel is going to feel good, real good, if they can finish off this victory. The first pitch to Odubert swung through, 0-1.
And it will also be interesting to see how Israel's manager, Jerry Weinstein, carves out the pitching with less pitching restraint as they advance to the next pool. How long will Jason Marquis go with the pitch limit being at 80?
No balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Josh Zeid on the mound, Randolph Odubert at the plate. Swing and a miss, and Israel sweeps through Seoul. On the way to Tokyo with a 4-2 victory over the Netherlands.
Well, they knew they were going to Tokyo, but they came out today through our discussions. They came out to win. And the spirit's really riding high as they're flying to Tokyo. Winner of Pool A. Did everything right, managed the pitching well, stayed out of the big innings. The defense was solid.